It says you are live.
Who is?
You're
What?
live.
No, I'm not.
You're alive.
Barely.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Thank you so much for watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to find us on Twitter and Instagram. Really? Go like, share, subscribe, tell everyone you know. Thanks for watching. All right, I have to go share because it just told me that we're live. So I need to go do it right now. And I don't know if my sound's off. My sound is not off either. Yell at me. You have to yell at me now.
No. I'll just,
I always yell at you.
let you feel the guilt and shame.
I feel guilt and shame. All right. As always, we have a wide variety of movies to discuss today. And let me see. Did I share? Share now. I don't like this.
You don't like
Like,
what?
why is it forcing it to be share public? I don't do share public. I share friends.
Well, this is being a public show. It should be shared public. It shouldn't be just shared to your friends.
I guess.
Why would you only want to share it to like the 5 people you know?
Because I don't
That
know.
doesn't. And the 5 people you share it to don't even watch it.
You're so funny. You crack me up.
True.
I love you. There was an error fetching data. Okay. I don't even know what that means, but let's just go with it. All right, babe. What movie do you want to start with?
I do not care.
Okay, well, let's see. We got some options. So
Why don't you talk about yours first?
Okay, let's go there. Let me see. How do I get back to my screen? Guys, my computer is in the shop. And so I'm having to use a different computer that I don't normally use. And I had to recreate the slides. And I don't have the right connection for this computer to my monitor. So I don't even know what's going on right now. But we're just going to share some stuff. All right. So the first one we're going to talk about is a documentary. It's available now on the Amazon Prime. And it is The Boy From Medellien. And it's about this singer. His name is Jay Bavin. I don't know why I don't know about this
I don't
guy.
know. I didn't watch it. I know about Medellin, but that's
from Academy Award nominee and Emmy winning filmmaker Matthew Heineman comes an intimate portray of one of the biggest international superstars of all time, J Balvin.
so big. Never even heard of him.
Yeah. Okay. So I do listen to Spanish music, but I have just specific little segments of stuff that I listen to. And I have actually heard one of his songs. It was one that has him and Cardi B and a whole bunch of other people, like a little compilation thing. So I do know that song. But anyhow, so this is a story about his career. And he is from Colombia. He grew up, like a poor kid in Colombia with a dream. I have a dream to become a famous singer. He knew that music was the only thing that he could do, and what he wanted to do with his life, so he just worked hard and made it to stardom. The interesting thing is that it's about him coming back to Medellin to do a concert, but at the time that the concert's supposed to happen, there's all of these protests and things happening. And so it's a little bit of like, do we do this tour? Do we not? What are we going to do? And then at the same time, he is personally struggling with depression and trying to deal with all that. And then the third level of this is the thing that we've always talked about is, should figures, famous people, artists, say anything or not say anything about politics and what's going on? Should they have an opinion? Are they allowed to have an opinion? Should they not? And his struggle of dealing with that and the anxiety that it's actually causing him as he's getting closer and closer to getting back to the city. With all the protests that were going on, they were protesting just the normal stuff, healthcare reform, social injustice, police brutality. I mean, all of the normal stuff that we see here. But of course, their government's completely silent on the matter. People are getting killed in the streets. They're getting tear gas, the whole bit. We've been there. We know that. But then at the same time, he's trying not to get involved with it. He's like, I just want to sing my music and do my thing. But then now radio stations and TV is like, oh, he's coming back for his concert, but he's been silent about the issues. So it's the back and forth. And then there's a whole interview segment of like, should artists even speak about politics or should they remain neutral? And he tries to remain neutral, but then gets the backlash of the people, why are you saying anything? And then he's like, well, if I said something, then it'd be the backlash of, well, why are you talking about this? You don't know. So it's that whole struggle.
There's some kind of a weird thing that people have decided that if you are a celebrity of any sort, that you're no longer allowed to have an opinion. You can't be both.
Yeah.
If you're a regular person sitting at home with no ambition to do anything, but you have your computer to be tough guy, you're allowed to have every opinion you want. But if you have the platform to speak out, then you can't say anything. But if you don't say anything, then they call you out for being a loser or misuse of your status because you're not speaking out on issues in support or against whatever it is. But then if you do, the people that disagree with you turn on you, sit down and shut up, go dribble your ball, sing your song. But if they agree with you, they're like, oh, you're so brave for risking your career. It's all nonsense, because every single person on this planet, whether you have $50 billion or 50 cents, you're still a person with an opinion.
Exactly.
And it doesn't lessen your opinion just because of what your job is.
Yeah, and that's where his struggle is. So he gets to this concert, and his managers sit him down, and they're like, you're going to have to say something, because you mentioned it in our interview that somebody had been killed, but you didn't say, yes, I agree, or no, I don't. He goes, you're going to have to say something at this concert. And he's like, but my persona, he goes, I'm just about reggaeton and ladies. I'm not about that. He's like, yeah, J Balvin is. He goes, but Jose, the person, you have an opinion.
Well, see, and that's an issue too, is because...
And so it goes back and forth. And he's so stressed out about it.
Well, it's because people don't want both sides. They either want that person that they've created, like the whole Gina Carano thing is an exact same situation. Is people loved her. I guarantee she's had the same opinions now that she did before she became famous. She's also from Texas.
Yeah.
So of course the opinions she has are going to be about what she has. Do I agree with all of her opinions? Not at all.
And that's okay.
But that doesn't change my feeling on as a fan of her as a fighter, or a fan of her in Star Wars, or as an actor. It might change my opinion of her as a person, but the two things are not the same.
Exactly. And that's what he's trying to say. He's like, well, this is me. He's like, I do care. He's like, I'm from here. If I have kids, I don't want them dealing with this crap. He goes, but my persona is just about the music. He's like, how do you reconcile the two?
Well, I think that's a big issue that fans, and now because of the internet, with people with a platform, they've separated to where you can be a fan of somebody's music, so instantly you understand everything about them. And then as soon as they say something differently than what you had decided they believed in because you were a fan, they're appalled.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the amount of people that decided, I no longer like Michael Jackson's music because of what he did in his personal life.
Correct.
It's not the same thing. People don't like Mel Gibson anymore because of his stuff. It sounds like Mel Gibson is a shit human.
Yeah,
but that doesn't change the fact
he makes some good movies.
It doesn't change the fact that I love Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
You know, and
he makes good movies.
Michael Jackson was a brilliant, musician, singer, whatever. That doesn't make him less of a creepy person.
Yeah, a little weird.
You know, you don't have to like the people to like their art.
Yeah.
And you don't have to cancel out what they did or your fandom of them, because you're not supporting the human just because you support the music. You're supporting what that person made or what they did. You know, now it has become a little bit harder in a person like this or the Michael Jacksons or whatever when they're the sole figurehead. You know, you take somebody like Gina Carano or Mel Gibson or people like that, they're front and center, but they're part of an ensemble.
Not the ensemble.
Or a group of people that create said art.
Yeah.
Whereas if Gina Carano was still just an MMA fighter, then that was all, she's her alone. But she was part of this bigger thing. Mel Gibson's making films, so all these people that work on the films and everything else, it's their art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in this case, you know, if you're going to tell people to speak out, then you have to be prepared to let them have their voice and then to make a decision. I'm just going to like their music and I don't want to hear anything else from them, or I'm not going to support them at all. And that's your personal right.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole cancel culture thing is nonsense.
Yeah.
Like there's even a thing, I was literally just reading an article that Disneyland opened back up, right?
Yes.
And they had redone, I don't know if you saw this stuff, there was a big article, hoopla about the Snow White ride.
Snow White?
Yeah, because it's now getting the cancel culture thing of Snow White, because at the end of it, the prince kisses her to wake her up, which is part of the story.
That's the movie.
But that's an inappropriate.
He didn't ask
kissed
permission.
against her wishes, yeah. And so somebody wrote this whole article. Mind you, it was two ladies that wrote the article. I guarantee you they're these feminists, whatever people. I don't know. There were these two ladies. I don't know who they are. I'm not pretending to know who they are. I just know it was two ladies that wrote the article from the article I read. But they're saying that needs to be changed and updated.
No.
And one of the Imagineer people that worked on that stuff years ago, and even maybe this one, basically came out that people have to understand that this ride was perfectly well done. It's from this time period of a storyline. You don't update it just because it's this. It's not even saying he purposely like if you think about that story, it's like it was understood only the magic of this was going to bring her back. That wasn't him saying, I'm going to take a smooch from her. Mm-hmm. The people that read into that are the problem.
Yeah.
Like all this cancel culture bullshit. I don't agree with cancel culture, period. I don't care what the person did, what they said, and did it. What I believe in is if you don't like what they said, if you don't like what them, then you personally have a choice to walk away.
Exactly.
If it's somebody that did something horrific, they raped somebody or assaulted somebody, then by all means. But that needs to be something that comes up and says there needs to be investigations and this and this. And then we've talked about on the show where you have to find that level of when somebody's accused of something or you disagree with something, are you willing to believe the outcome of said trial or investigation?
And then can you let it go?
Because there's been so many stories we've heard about how somebody did something, everybody immediately turned on them. Then something else comes, like Johnny Depp's a prime example.
Yeah.
He's gone through so much crap. I guarantee I'm a huge, huge, huge Johnny Depp fan. And I'm sure he was just as much to blame in the situation with drugs and craziness, because I'm sure he's a crazy person. But when stuff started coming back out, that how Amber Heard was part of the craziness and he wasn't just to blame, he was still being pushed to the side. And she's still getting to stay in Aquaman. He didn't get to keep his job.
Well, my thing is like, if someone's done something and then they go to jail or they pay the fine, can we let it go and move on? Like, why do we still keep dragging them down after they've paid for whatever the crime was?
I've noticed a trend that it seems to be the only people that deserve the forgiveness are the people that aren't celebrities. Mm. Because if you somebody out of jail or whatever, obviously the victims are behind the crime. Most of them don't forgive them. But the religious right people or the average person says, you know what, everybody deserves a second chance. Mm. Unless you're a celebrity, then you're done.
Yeah.
And it's people horrible. Like one of the stupidest to me was like the Kevin Hart one when he was getting ready to host the Oscars.
Yes.
So then there's people that go out and dig up tweets to from 10 years before that he had apologized for, changed his acts. He did everything to be better and not do that. But it still affects him because people think the fact that people spend that time to look up the negativities means we have a problem. Like even the day the Shang-Chi trailer came out, people dug up tweets from that guy saying something years ago as being silly, for no other reason other than like, let's get him.
Yep.
That was it. There was nothing nothing happened to say, wait, what do you mean? What happened? Who said what? Somebody just did it because they thought it was funny.
Yeah. To hurt someone.
So
anyhow,
if you're a celebrity, you're not allowed to speak up.
You are allowed.
If you mow the lawn, you can do whatever you want, apparently.
Anyhow, The Boy From Medellien, it's a really interesting movie. It deals with a lot of issues that are relevant today. And the funniest thing I just have to tell you, no matter how big of a celebrity you are, if you're backstage in the changing room and you need to pee, they hand them a bottle. They're like, this is what we got. Keep going. Mm-hmm. So even if you're a celebrity,
it's also
you got to pee in a bottle so you can change it. Go back up.
Some of the documentaries of people's performances and things like that, and shows.
Yeah.
It's funny to see how unglamorous most of the stuff is. You see them on stage, all their big things, but then when you see stuff they go through backstage or
because they're running around, people are like pulling clothes off. Here, put this on. He's like, I gotta pee, and they're like, chi chi, because that's in Espanol, and they're like, here you go.
My favorite photos that come out of like biographies and histories and stuff are when you see like an artist and they're sitting in some dingy dressing room in a chair by themselves, and you're like, man, this is the beginning of their career, and you find out it was like the biggest Madison Square Garden concert they ever did.
Yeah.
And that was their room that they had to work out of.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, because like, you see people in their green room or whatever. It's just a room that they've.
Well, you also hear like, it's really more common in like the comedy world and you hear about these people that go on these big tours and they're doing this, and then you hear them tell stories. It's like the wrestlers too that are traveling, and then you start hearing about how like 3 wrestlers had to share one hotel room, and then the next night they're in the biggest stadium in the country, with thousands of fans chanting their name, and they're the biggest celebrity around. Then they go back to their hotel room with like double beds, and room service, and the room service is not room service. It's like a pizza was delivered.
Yeah.
They're not all in these big highfalutin lifestyles.
Yeah. So be happy with what you got.
Yeah.
Anyhow, The Boy From Medellien, it is available on the Amazon now.
Amazon Shopping?
Yes, the Amazon Shopping.
Right.
It's available in Amazon Shopping. Okay.
You may tell me about the other one I did then.
Yes, let me find
All right.
it.
Well, the one I'm going to talk about, because we didn't watch as many movies between Mother's Day and just lots of stuff going on. We didn't have as much time. So I watched this documentary, and for anybody that doesn't know, I'm obsessed with anything serial killers or crime, which doesn't bode well for her future.
Or horrible Nazis.
Yeah, Nazis are great villains, but I love history, but I really love like stuff about historical things about serial killers and whatnot. And so Night Stalker was a really great one Netflix had. That's the one I was trying to remember the other day.
No, Night Stalker.
But yes. And when I find these, I don't hear about them. I just happen to come across them, and the titles catch me. So like I was late at night, I'm watching this like I do every single night because that's my whole life. I came across this Netflix documentary series called The Sons of Sam, A Descent into Darkness, which caught the Son of Sam we've heard of millions of times, but caught my eye was that it was plural.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was a movie when I started watching, then I realized it's like a 4 or 6 part documentary series. And basically what it is it's following this reporter who became obsessed with trying to solve the Son of Sam murder, right? And so the documentary is following all the killings, and if you don't know the story, Son of Sam was this David Berkowitz, basically had been periodically just point blank shooting people in their cars, and it was usually a younger woman, brown hair, whatever, but they seemed to have no rhyme or reason other than the MO of the people. But he had also shot some men, some couples, so it kind of was weird. And then they started getting like sketches from people that supposedly saw him, but the sketches were all different.
Oh.
So it made people start thinking, wait a minute, there's more to this. And so this guy, basically, he's no longer with us. So Paul Giamatti actually does his voice in the narration, like as he's telling the story. And it's showing lots of the normal documentary stuff, interviews and footage and whatever. But after they catch Berkowitz, I'm jumping ahead on purpose because I'm not going to tell everybody everything. But after Berkowitz is caught, it's kind of case closed. He admitted to it.
Correct.
I believe there was a trial, whatever. They locked him up, and seemingly the Son of Sam thing was done. And most of us, the only thing we've ever heard about is David Berkowitz as the Son of Sam. Mm-hmm. There's even, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's even a Spike Lee movie called Summer of Sam that has John Leguizamo and a bunch of people in it. And it's not about the Son of Sam killer. It's about that year in, I think it's L.A., where everybody was terrified because of the Son of Sam killer. Like, parties weren't happening anymore. It was essentially like our pandemic last year. Correct. People weren't allowed to go out. People weren't doing things, but it was people doing it because of fear of being killed.
Correct. Well, yeah.
And after this other guy starts trying to investigate.
That's the movie I was remembering.
What?
Summer of Sam.
Oh, was it with John Leguizamo and Spike Lee movie?
Yeah.
It's an interesting movie if you've never seen it, but it's anyway, as the story kind of unfolds, it goes into directions of satanic cults, Charles Manson, movie producers, so many different, like, there's even offshoots that come off of Scientology, which then I found out that Charles Manson was kind of connected to this thing called the Process, which was a direct offshoot that kind of came out of Scientology. And so there's so many layers that I knew nothing about. And then years later, Berkowitz even did an interview with this guy way after, because Berkowitz started corresponding with this guy via letters and started telling him, hey, you're onto something, blah, 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 but they'll never believe you.
Right. No
matter what you say, what proof you have, nobody will ever believe you. And so the guy ended up writing a book called Ultimate Evil, talking about his findings. I'm not going to tell you all of his findings, you have to watch it for yourself. But then it kind of shifts to his rise in popularity from this book and him trying to do this. His whole mission was to get the word out. and they're showing clips of all the interviews and stuff he does. So he was on like Geraldo. The next thing you know, he's on what's it? Morton Downey Jr. I don't know if you remember that guy, big mouth guy who was always yelling at people, smoked like a fucking chain smoker. I loved Morton Downey Jr.'s show because it was just chaos of nonsense. It was kind of like Jerry Springer, but with real topics.
I see.
And he was always yelling at everybody, and like there was fights on his show, but he would get in. Morton Downey Jr. is dead now too, but I think he died of cancer because literally he was chain smoking on TV, chain smoking all the time.
That's horrible.
And he was kind of a douchebag. But what happened is, as he was doing his press and doing all this stuff, he started hurting himself, because then they were booking him on shows, and they'd have like a satanic priest on the show as well, and they started. So then it almost became a mockery of itself. And then one of the things that he had that was linked into his book, everything else they found out was never connected. They finally, like years later, they caught a guy that was actually responsible for this crime, had nothing to do with other stuff, and so then it started making him look even more debunked. But then there's other stuff that he finds, and it all circles back to him. This one moment that's close to the end of it, where he's kind of down on his luck before the big stuff happens at the end of it, and he said it takes him back to looking at that letter again and said, they will never believe you. And he's like, he told me from the beginning that no matter what evidence, what I did, nobody's going to ever believe me. And so it's very, very, whether you know the whole story, don't know it, it's very intriguing, it's very interesting, and it's the amount of directions this thing went and that was admitted to and still isn't solved, and then stuff that was in fact solved later is insane.
So did it for you create some doubt that there were other?
Oh no, I have no doubt whatsoever that there was other people involved.
Okay.
Like, but outside of the fact that Berkowitz admitted to it, and I remember seeing the interview years ago because of crime investigation that work. He said
he didn't do all of it.
Well, right? Originally he admitted to it.
He did. Okay.
But when 16 years later is when he did the interview with that guy.
This guy.
And he told the guy, I didn't kill all those people. He said, so he literally named them. The reporter did. The reporter said, did you kill this one? He's like, yes. Did you kill this one? No. Did you kill this one? No. And these are all people that were on the list of people he killed. He goes, well, did you kill these people? I was there, but I did not kill them.
Oh, snap.
So and he has this interview, and a lot of it came down to the police not wanting to look like they messed up.
Exactly. That always happens.
Because there was this one detective they keep having. There was a couple of other, but just one specific detective that would called in on the radio shows that he was in, did interviews, and said, no, he's just making crap up to sell his book. This isn't true. And they're like, well, Berkowitz said, well, he led that interview to get him to say stuff. And if you watch the interview, I didn't take it that way, but I can kind of see if somebody planted that seed, because Berkowitz wasn't willing to really say anything.
Yeah.
But the guy would say, okay, so if you did this, did you in fact, were you the one that killed him? It was kind of that baiting unintentionally, because Berkowitz wasn't going to admit to it.
That style of reporting.
There was even an earlier situation to where he was corresponding. They would have got a lot more too, because the police jacked up the investigation, because when he started getting letters from Berkowitz in prisons, when he started responding to this other investigation, where he blatantly said the Satanic Church was connected and this and this and this, that's where the whole Son of Sam came from. And the way he started piecing it together was this guy named Sam Carr, I believe. And there's some other, Joseph, I think it was Joseph Carr and Sam Carr. But then they were connected to some of the Satanic Church stuff, but they were also abusive to people. And this guy, he kept saying, I'm the son of Sam. He's not one of his sons, but this guy took care of him. And so it was like connected son and Carr.
Way more.
Yeah, and so
I'm going to have to watch this.
Yeah, everything that's connected in it, if nothing else, it will make you go, well, what's real and what isn't? And it came like, one of the big things is when he took a while before he turned over. He didn't turn the letters from Berkowitz over to the police. He started writing the articles and posting the letters in the newspaper, but Berkowitz was fine with that. But then the cops like, look, we think we can do better. So they went to Berkowitz in prison and talked to him. But he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never corresponded with this guy, because he didn't want to get killed in prison.
True. As
a snitch, because supposedly these other people. So then it makes you think, well, was that Berkowitz even sending the letters? And as soon as that happened, he sent him a letter that says, I can no longer correspond with you, blah, 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 blah. I understand you do what you want.
Do we think he wrote the letters, though, because he found Jesus and he wanted to get the truth out? Because that was another part of his story.
Yeah, and Berkowitz is still alive. He's still in prison. Yeah.
How old is he? He's got to be.
I don't know, because his last parole hearing, because he's supposed to get a parole hearing every 2 years, but he's said that he doesn't want a parole. He wants to spend his life in prison to atone for what he did, and he has found Jesus and all this kind of stuff. His last parole hearing was supposed to be 2019. It got delayed, and then COVID hit, and so nothing's happened. But he actually has gone to the parole board and said he didn't want it. But now I think
he's only 50.
Yeah, so now I think he wants to actually. Well, this wasn't that long ago.
No, because this was in the 70s.
Yeah, but he's now I think wants to get out.
1950. Hold on, maybe I'm wrong. He's 68.
Yeah, I think he now wants to get out because I think there was an early parole hearing. This isn't in the movie. This is just in history. That he was up and he didn't show up to parole hearings because he didn't want to leave. He sent letters to the parole board and said, "Do not give me parole. Can you please change this rule of my verdict or whatever of not giving me these parole hearings because I don't deserve to be out there." But I think now that he's found himself and he spent all this time in prison, I think he was kind of now wants to get out, but they still keep declining him.
I'm just intrigued by the possibility that there were additional killers, that it has all of these branches that were connected.
Yeah, because there's like one sequence where this guy they find dead.
I'm gonna have to go look up this process church because they're saying it's purely satanic.
Yeah, don't watch the film before you look up anything with the process, because they give you a lot of in-depth information.
Okay.
Because the guy that founded the process came out of Scientology.
Well, that makes sense because Scientology has a whole process. You go through the process of becoming clear.
Yeah.
You know, through all of the stuff.
There's this thing about the process, and there's an offshoot group called the Children.
Oh Lord, then that.
And then Berkowitz was actually a member of the Children.
Wasn't the Children part of Manson?
Well, that was another section, but then there's talks about some of the children maybe being part of Manson, and Manson actually hanging out, being a part
it's all
of
satanic in a way, right?
Well, and Berkowitz was part of the Children at one point. Like as a kid, he hung out with them, and they talk about this place where they hung out, and then there was supposedly dog sacrifices, and it was initially meant to be more of just like he didn't have anyone to belong to, and he found somebody, and everybody kind of felt like a family, and then it turned into something way off kilter. And
oh my gosh, okay, I gotta stop looking this up because I'm getting so
we can watch it tonight.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, The Sons of Sam
sounds amazing
on Netflix. It's so good if you like. It's not overly graphic. Like Night Stalker showed a lot more graphic photos of the deaths. There are some here, but it's not as much as this one. This was more just intriguing of the direction because it's really more about this reporter Maury.
Yeah,
I think that's his name. It's more about him and his obsession.
And now is he's still around?
No, he died.
He died.
Yeah, and it goes all the way up to that's why Paul made.
And that's too bad that you said at the beginning, and that's too bad that Berkowitz told him. He's like, no one's gonna believe you anyway. Then now people like, do we?
Well,
believe
and there's new stuff that has come up.
Oh man!
Which when you see the ending of the movie,
I'm gonna say I believe him.
There's new stuff that came up, like I want to say as early as 2016, that has now kept the investigation alive. That kind of is how the documentary ends, and it kind of shifts some of the focus. But there is some graphic details in relation to what they explain through some of the things. So, like, there is one lady that's, I think she was like 19, that was murdered in a church at a college, and it talks about stuff being inserted into her and things like this, and
that's sad.
And which they talk about how it felt very satanic ritual.
Yeah.
But it may not have been connected to that at all.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's some craziness. So
well, and the thing about the police that you mentioned, that is true. Like they don't want to go back to something they feel has been solved because then it opens up this whole can of
this
worms.
one they didn't want to, because so here's the thing before we move on from this one is when they caught him, the public was so excited. Like there's a scene, a news footage where they're walking Berkowitz in arrested. Berkowitz is smiling and looking at everybody, right?
Right.
Because he loves it. And there's like you would have thought this was a red carpet premiere. So many people, and people are cheering and excited, and because they feel free, they feel like they can go out again. They feel like they're safe to walk the streets, not realizing that from this story,
there was all this stuff. Someone else out there.
Yeah, and there was this one victim guy that got shot in the head who did live. He ended up starting helping the reporter years and years later. He also found out through the Berkowitz interview that 16 years later, Berkowitz was like, I didn't shoot him. So this whole time he thought his killer had been the guy that tried to kill him, and I believe killed his girlfriend.
Wouldn't you be freaking out?
I believe his girlfriend died, but he survived.
Did you think you were safe?
So now he's like, wait, what? This whole time I thought it's good, but the person that shot me is still out there. You know,
That's
so he started helping,
creepy.
and it's
That's so
yeah,
good.
it's
Oh my
it's
gosh.
cool. So no matter how much information you got from me just now, it's still so much more to soak
Okay,
in.
I'm excited.
It's exciting. It's great. It's on Netflix right now, and I love it because I love all those kind of things.
You do. You're a crime and investigation junkie.
The Crime and Investigation Network used to be my jam before they decided to.
You can tell me how a paracentric
The
key works.
paracentric key, yeah. If you've never saw the Crime and Investigation Network, it was I don't remember what it is. It True TV?
I think it's True TV,
Which-
but it's not even.
Which was
anymore.
funny is because when it became True TV, that's where you watch Practical Jokers.
Yeah, no, they put fun stuff on it.
So
now, but it used to
they
just be
shifted it,
crime.
and then it was like only half a day was Crime and Investigation, the other half was True TV, and then they just totally got away with it. It was literally just a network that showed documentaries on this stuff,
Serial
prisons.
killer, that one guy, the famous guy.
Oh, W.C. Fields.
just,
What it did is it had excerpts and commercials, and had these little vignettes that would talk about different things, the paracentric key in the prisons and why they make it, the little thing with W.C. Fields and the scam and how his whole career was ruined by somebody making some stuff up or whatever. And she used to get so annoyed because I watched it 24/7. It was always on.
Always. Anyway, okay, next movie.
It doesn't bode well for your future.
I know. Anyways. Okay, next we're going to this one.
Okay.
All right.
So this next one is one I've been excited since I saw the trailer for a few different reasons. It's a movie called The Paper Tigers, which is a martial arts drama / comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I was first excited to see it because it had Ron Yun in it,
Mm-hmm.
who I have been a fan of all the way back to Ring of Fire with Don the Dragon Wilson, which was like 1995. Ron Yun is also, I don't know if you recognize him or not. He's the one that had the glasses.
Yes,
with
the
Matt
glasses.
Bundy.
Yes.
He's always like he was recently in Mulan as one of the main soldier generals or whatever. He's directing the sequel to 47 Ronin that's fixing to come out. He's been a martial arts fight choreographer and stuff for years. So I was excited to see him in it. Although I was baffled because he's super bald and he's got hair in this one, so I wasn't sure where they were going with that. But also,
it all works itself out.
yeah, it's all part of the movie, actually, to my surprise.
Yeah.
But also was seeing Matt Page in the trailer, who, if you don't know who Matt Page is, very lovely man. I've had the joy of speaking with him. Actually, we speak fairly often, not often, but often on the Facebook. But he is also known as Master Ken from the web series Enter the Dojo, which you've never seen it. You need to check it out because it is hilarious.
It is hilarious.
But in this, he is not Master Ken. He is this whole other character, and he got more to do than I thought he was going to get to.
Yeah, which is really good.
So do you want to tell everybody what the movie's about?
The movie is about these
An hour and a half.
3 young boys
Oh, underwear direction already.
who are taking kung fu lessons
I like how you put it. These 3 boys are taking kung fu lessons
from just a local master, and it's interesting because in a way it reminded me of you, where the Sifu has just a normal job. He cooks Chinese food in a restaurant, but he is a kung fu master, and he has these 3 boys that he's teaching, and they are the Tigers. Okay, that's his little clan. And those are the only 3 students he has, and it shows them
You keep talking, I'll be right back.
in a montage from children to teenagers to adulthood, where they are just learning all of these things. And as what often happens when you become an adult, they kind of go their separate ways. They lose touch, and they are brought back together because they find out that their master has died. So that's where our story really starts. And then throughout the course of it, it flashes back to things that happened when they were young, some of the lessons they learned. And it was really interesting just because of Bobby and his martial arts background and us doing martial arts together, how they wove the story from, we're having these problems now as an adult, but hey, remember when we learned this as a kid, and how it ties back to here. Because I firmly believe that martial arts, just your foundation and a real traditional, not fight, not like let's go beat each other up, but a traditional foundation in martial arts really does serve you throughout your lifetime. And it's really about life lessons. Yeah, you're learning to hit things or beat people up, but it's laying the foundation for your life, just your core principles of respect and hard work and listening when people talk to you. I mean, just those core values. And we see them now as grown-ups, and they can't even communicate with each other. And so then we start going back to what went wrong and where did it take a wrong turn.
So I apologize walking away, but did you establish how they had set themselves up as the three tigers?
Yes.
Were beating everybody up and everything?
Yeah, well,
okay.
That was the one thing that I thought was they went a little bit wonky.
Well, I agree, but I think the idea
they were using their skills to just.
They were basically okay. So what they were doing, like, here's where we see differently.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with what they were doing, but they were doing an old school thing where you're basically establishing your dojo
as the
leveling. It's like the old school kung fu movies and stuff where the rival dojos would fight to establish this is the best dojo,
like
or whatever. Yeah. So in this case, it's setting the tone of the legendary status of these three tigers.
Of the tigers.
And they would beat everybody. And there's this one fighter that they beat all the time, who then comes back later as, which is that to me that's part of the interesting transition, because it's that one guy that was refused to give up no matter how many times he got beat.
Yeah.
Ends up being the most established long-term instructor.
And that's what's interesting to me, because I will tell you that just from our, the different students and things we have. Is someone coming by?
I don't know. It was my son called.
Well, that's what I've seen throughout the course of our thing. A lot of the people who stick with it, you'll make it. And then a lot of the people that stay long term, they're probably not the best fighters. Like, I'm not the best fighter, but I will keep going. And that's the interesting thing to me. If you just stick with it,
the most common thing. There are so many levels to this movie that I identified with.
There's so many different things.
Where some levels I was not happy that I identified with.
Yes. Hi.
Because
say hi to this dog.
Hello, this dog. So for those who don't know, and you may not even realize this until I say it out loud, though, I've been in martial arts for almost 38 years now.
You're old,
right? And so it's been majority of my life.
You're alive.
Excuse me. But I'm also now to the age where my body has made changes.
Yeah, that's where the next thing we have to talk about.
The some of it's the normal age stuff. I can still jump and twist and do my stuff, but it takes a little more effort. I got to stretch a little bit longer. My injuries are coming back to haunt me. And there's a whole element to these characters where it's almost like all three people represent each variation of what could be and what is. Yeah. So you have the active martial arts guy, but he has left Kung Fu and he's being more about the jiu-jitsu, and which is a very common thread, especially nowadays, that so many people, because jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and MMA has kind of become the focal point of a lot of stuff. A lot of people have left and gone to that because it has different elements that improve. And you could throw a stick and find 50,000 YouTube shows or podcasts or whatever to talk about how traditional martial arts doesn't work in real life. And it's a matter of opinion depending on your perspective of what you're looking at, what is it working on doing. Mm-hmm. Then you have the other guy who he's trying to hold on to the glory, but he really can't do anything anymore. He has his opinion, his knees jacked up. He doesn't really work out anymore. He's kind of gotten pudgy, but he still can tell you everything. He still knows everything. He just can't necessarily do it all. Then you have the guy that kind of stepped away from all of it.
Yeah, just let it go.
As far as he's concerned, Kung Fu never happened, but he doesn't really have any kind of real ability to run his own life effectively.
Correct.
He basically replaced his martial arts obsession with a different obsession.
Correct.
Just like working. His job.
Yeah.
It's not drugs or anything like that. So what did you think of the movie?
I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was so good. The other element to this is now these older guys are having to go talk to these young martial artists who are really just all about the fighting and being showy and the flippy.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fight with the traditional Kung Fu and the flippy stuff. And so that was an interesting thing to me, because that's a lot of what we see. Like you said, a lot of people have turned to the let's just do the flippy or trick kicking.
Well, what's interesting about it is the thing that brings them together. It's like there's a whole nother catalyst to the story that brings them together. But the simple version is like their master's passed, so they're going to his funeral.
Yes.
But what I found interesting is that when they're paying their respects, these young kids show up, and they're paying respects to the master as well. But then they want to take pictures with him, so it fully embraces today.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
For people that want to be badass fighters and they do this stuff and they do this, but they still want to be connected to that person's name And that's what causes one of the issues is they want to say we are disciples of this person because they know even though their thought process is what we do is better and more effective than what this person did, this person's credibility will make us somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys have that credibility from being connected, even if they still can't do everything the right way.
Correct. And so that's where a little bit of our story comes to, is that the older guys are like, whoa, you were not his students, we were his students. So don't y'all go around saying that, which is actually very relevant to a lot of what happens in our own martial arts world.
I'm dealing with that fairly often right now with a couple of individuals.
And people trying to use the name of like, oh, I studied with so and so, and he said this, and it's not even true. And I think in a certain way that goes back to the whole foundation of respect and just getting there on your own merit. At some point, you're only as good as you.
Yeah,
I mean, the only opponent you really have is yourself.
Here's the thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand is there's not a person on this planet that can't become a good fighter or martial artist. But it does depend on what you're willing to put into it, what's in your heart, what's in your mind, who you train with, and how you train. Now, there are martial arts instructors that are just crap. They're shit instructors. But most of them, because they come from another system that built them that way, and they're just there. And this isn't even to shit on an individual, but it's like getting a coach that somebody's just not really good at soccer because they played soccer when they were in elementary school and they decided to coach a kid's team.
That doesn't mean
they're not really good at the game.
And some people are not good instructors.
Yeah, and there's
you're a good martial artist, you're a good technician.
I have plenty of black belts,
but you can't teach.
I have plenty of black belts that I've told them, so you're a good martial artist, you're a forever student, you're not an instructor. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's okay.
And I think the issue is there's this perception that if you can't beat everybody up, you're not any good. And like that's, if you listen to the arguments of how traditional martial arts doesn't work for this, and this, the people that are saying that are typically MMA fighters, people on their podcasts with their opinions, people, it's not people that have fully embraced martial arts as a whole.
Correct.
Now, I do agree with a lot of things that have been said in relation to what you teach in your class and the useless stuff that's taught in classes. There's a lot of useless stuff we teach in my class. The difference is I tell my students it's useless. And I say the reason we do this is to make you better at this. 90% of jumping around and kicking and flipping and all this stuff is absolutely useless. But it makes you stronger. It makes you more coordinated. There's different elements. Like when we're teaching, I don't know, like some of the stuff that has kind of gotten the bad rap over the years is like the stuff you see in the movie where like somebody pointing a gun at you and taking the gun away from somebody and whatever. It is a very real technique. It really works. But the likelihood of you getting shot is about 98%. And so when I teach stuff like this, I teach them so they have knowledge. But for a situation that says if you have no other option, this is what you at least gives you a fighting chance. Mm-hmm. But understand the moment you do this, you're likely going to get shot. Mm-hmm. Whereas other people's like, if you do this, it works. Mm-hmm. And I've even had people that I've trained with that said, my system is good and will hold up with everybody else, any other system out there. I'm like, that is a load of shit. I don't know. You might need to check it. My son may be here. I don't know.
Okay. We're in the middle of a show, man.
I just texted.
Did you tell him we're doing a show?
Yeah. But I don't know if he was coming by or something.
Okay.
But anyway, it's this movie kind of the movie kind of deals with that kind of stuff. And if I have any problem with the movie is, and it's more my own issue, is I thought there was gonna be more fighting. I thought it was gonna be more action. There's a decent amount, but I thought it was gonna be a full-on action flick, and there's a lot more drama with comedy. It's still a great movie. Don't get me wrong. It was my own interpretation of what I was gonna get. And I did love getting to see Matt Page, Master Ken, play a part that, while still hilarious, he got to show off some of his own martial arts skills because he's a real life martial artist as well, which is where that character comes from. Nonsense instructors that he's trained with.
Yes.
But getting to see him do stuff, because he's been in a ton of movies. People have seen him that may not have known it was him. It was usually a one-off. He was like as a main character in this movie.
Yeah, which is really good.
And I also found it hilarious that Run Yun is the one that doesn't get as much fighting as some of the other people. And he's the one that I've known and such a badass fighter for so much longer.
Yeah.
So seeing him be kind of the comic foil when he fights,
Yeah.
even though he gets some great moments.
He does.
But
He does some good kicks.
I think he played up the comedy on purpose.
Yeah.
But it's just funny seeing that he's the one knowing.
I don't know. I thought it was awesome. I liked it. I obviously we connected with it because that's who we are.
So hot
But it is hot in this house. We're having some AC problems, but that's okay. We're just going to keep it cool. Anyway, you need to watch Paper Tigers. It's awesome. And if you're looking for a Taekwondo class, come on down. Just send us a message. We have classes
or Muay Thai.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
I teach every day except for Friday and Friday.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We have classes every
Between
day.
Taekwondo, Muay Thai, or weapons, I teach every single day.
There's class for all ages. Come on down.
Yeah. Paper Tigers is available in theaters and on digital from Wellgo USA. It's a fun movie. Just know that it's more of a drama comedy with some infusion of martial arts here and there. And the action that is here is really good. And those young guys that were some really good martial artists as far as
they
skill
were
level.
they were really good.
Amazing control of stuff they do.
And some of the kicks were good. Now they were doing the weird flippy stuff, which was actually cool too.
Well, the big thing I do want to say about them is there's a difference to me with straight trickers.
Yes.
Which trickers are people that flip and do stuff, and then these guys were doing trick kicking, but with the intent of hitting somebody.
Yes.
A lot of trickers just throw them for the showcase of the acrobatic.
That's the other thing I can't say. When I see someone with a beautiful kick, but it doesn't come on, hit him in the face.
Yeah, well, a lot of it. Well, and there's a lot of kicks that people use just to set up something else.
I know.
And I get the purpose.
It's like if I could kick that high, man,
I learned a long time ago as a martial artist instructor that I had to make categories in my brain. Is when I've seen somebody doing tricking and things like this, I said, okay, and they're doing tournaments. Okay, that's great competition form, and that's great acro, and that's this. And same thing using a weapon. When I see somebody that's doing these fast spinnings and doing all this stuff with the weapons, that it's impressive to watch them.
Do you feel like going and doing a Donald Duck and just be like?
Yeah, like some of it I used to. I would watch them and I'd be like, okay, that's amazing skill. It's impressive skill, but that bow that you're using would snap in half if me and you fought, because the bow I'm using is a heavy traditional thick bow.
Yeah.
The one you're using is purposely weighs half a pound so you can spin it super fast.
Correct.
But there's also some of those people that I see them I see videos of them doing all this stuff, but then you see another video of them on teaching a class and they're doing real stuff. So then it makes me even more impressed that they've worked on both levels.
Yeah. But
it is what it is. Everybody has their opinion. I think every aspect of martial arts has a place.
Yeah.
Except for Bullshido. You know what Bullshido is?
No.
Bullshido is bullshit martial artists. The
one where they
touch people and throw them without touching them. Frank Dukes, the Bloodsport guy, and all his nonsense. And
I like the thing where they're just like.
Yeah, one of my favorite things recently that nobody would even know that's happening unless you follow it is Don the Dragon Wilson and Frank Dukes' war online, because Don Wilson's calling his bios bullshit. And it all funny started, we'll move on, but it all started funny because all Don did was copy and paste Frank Dukes' own claims of things he's done. Said nothing. He just says.
But then he got onto it.
Frank Dukes jumped on him like, how dare you question me?
See, he's guilty.
He's like, I didn't say anything. Exactly. I posted from your page to this, and then opened the door. But anyway.
Okay.
Moving on.
Next. Hold on. Let me get to
one more movie.
We have one more to talk about.
It's the biggest, the number one movie of the weekend.
Was it?
Yep.
Oh, it went to the wrong slide. Hold on. I'm excited about this.
All right. So the next one is the reteam of Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham for their action thriller Wrath of Man.
I'm over here doing that.
Yes, we had different reasons for wanting to see this movie.
I just wanted to see Jason Statham stand there.
Now, Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham have done movies before, but I believe this is the first one they've done together in 16 to 20 years.
Oh, goodness. The dog just knocked the camera down.
Oh, we're going to have to look at his crotch now.
Oh,
all right, well, I guess you need to talk about doing that, and I'll talk to him.
Let me go do that.
I'll talk to him like our last one. At least they didn't knock our camera over in here this time.
Yeah.
They knock other cameras over. So anyway, they reteamed for this film. Basically, this movie is about a company that's armored truck company, and the guy that's starting to work there, and there's been some armored truck robberies, and essentially There's some hijinks going on you could tell there's more to the story than what's going on with this guy getting this job. And so it kind of is just a mystery unfolding on who's behind these robberies, what's the connection here, what's the connection there. It's kind of one of those things. It's a fairly basic premise. It's not an overly complicated movie. It's pretty simple, straightforward, but there are some interesting twists and turns. Some you see coming, some that are kind of out of left field.
Well, that's horrible. Anyways, basically, the cat walked down the sidewalk.
There's
a neighborhood cat that just likes to cause drama.
It also likes, we have a camera by our front door that it likes to walk through, so it sets off our thing, and it's just a picture of the cat walking by. Of course, there was one day that I was looking in the window, and it's just a photo of the cat.
It's awesome.
Anyway, so what did you think of this movie? Outside of your lady love for Jason Statham, what did you think of the movie?
I liked it. I was trying to think. There was something that bothered me, but I liked it overall. I'm trying to remember. Let me get back into the movie. Let me get back into it. Keep talking.
I love this movie, and it's because it had that gritty, old school vibe to it. There's not a lot of, there's not any of the Jason Statham martial arts fighting in it. This is more gunplay. Yeah, this is the gunplay kind of thing. It's very stylized, like Guy Ritchie, and I'm so happy to see Guy Ritchie back to doing these kind of films, because he'd gone and done Sherlock Holmes movies and some bigger, blockbuster type movies. But in this one, like last year, he did The Gentleman, which is one of my favorite movies of last year. Really?
Oh my goodness, there's nothing there.
Just let me shut the door.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I did like this movie. I'm remembering what it was. I think it was that I was expecting him to kick somebody, and we were just shooting.
Yeah, and
but I'm okay with that. Now, I didn't know that going in.
Well, I didn't either.
But I'm okay with it.
But I personally just think that we don't have enough Jason Statham in the world.
I agree.
But I also love the fact that we're not oversaturated with Jason Statham, because it makes it so much more exciting when I see a new Jason Statham thing coming. I'm not going to lie. Jason Statham is Jason Statham in every movie.
He is.
He's the Jimmy Stewart of action. He's always the same guy.
But that's what we expect. But at least in this one, there's a little bit of heart to his story. There's a reason why everything unfolds the way it does. And I think the other standout for me is Baby Clint Eastwood. What's his name? He has his own name.
Baby Clint Eastwood. Scott Eastwood.
Scott Eastwood. He's starting to look just like him, and those piercing blue eyes.
He does. He looks exactly like him.
The eye and that chin. I mean, he looks
just like him from the Rifleman. I mean, not the Rifleman, Rawhide.
Rawhide. Can we do a Rawhide little movie with him in it?
They just need to go back like they were doing. I was talking to her about back in the 90s. There was always like these series of movies that come out that were. Like, I remember one specifically that came out, it was like Stallone, Swayze, but it was Frank Stallone and then Patrick Swayze's brother. But that's how they got you to rent them. And they weren't lying.
But it's actually a very clever movie. And I like that throughout the whole movie is where we're finding the bits, because it's a little bit of a mystery.
It is. It's a non-linear storyline.
Yeah, which I liked.
You get in there, but you know immediately something's up.
Yeah. But
you're not supposed to not know something's up. They want you to realize that, we all know Jason Statham is up to something.
He's up to something.
And I like he's kind of your average unstoppable hero like. But this time he's not so much of a hero. He's a little more of a bad guy, not bad guy like villain, but like not really a good person.
He's not a good person, but with good intentions.
The element of what's going on here, it's interesting because the element of his connection is not of a good person, but why he's doing this is because he's trying to do something good. Mm-hmm. That make kind of sense?
Yes, he's trying to do something good.
And what's my favorite part of this whole movie is, one, again, we don't get enough Josh Hartnett.
Oh,
but we had Josh Hartnett back in like one of his main lead films in God knows how long, other than that Quibi thing he did with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Playing Josh Hartnett. But in this one, he's persona is this badass.
Yeah.
And he's so the opposite once shit goes down, which made it so much more entertaining.
Can we say...
Huh? Yes, you can say whoever you want.
So, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything. Okay, my favorite, I think, just because we're talking about, he's in that. But I think my other kind of one-off side character in this one was Andy Garcia.
Yeah.
Because I like Andy Garcia. I don't get enough Andy Garcia, which is probably good, again, because we don't want too much of that. But my favorite thing, I'm not even going to tell you, he's like, okay, so are we done with this now? And he's like, yep. And I'm like, all right then. So
yeah,
I can't even tell you what
it's
happens.
a
But
movie
I'm
that
just like,
I really
okay.
dug this movie. It's gritty, it's simple. There are twists and turns in it. They're not twists that are like, what? They're twists that you could probably figure out, but it doesn't hurt the film. And Jason Statham is just badass Jason Statham. And I love that he shows up, and I've heard him and Guy Ritchie doing another movie together again, which I'm excited for.
Yeah.
And he's doing the Meg 2, which I'm excited for. And there's still the discussion of a new Expendables happening.
Oh,
So-
please do.
so we'll see.
And then I like anything with armored trucks.
Do you really?
I do, like a Italian Job. Love it. I like anything that
An
has.
Italian Job, Guy Ritchie?
Was it?
I think it might be.
Maybe he has a thing for armored trucks too, but I just like those things. I mean,
Maybe that's
Italian Job. Oh my gosh. Who directed Italian
I
Job?
don't remember.
Anyhow, I like
Jason
those kind of
Statham's in
things
that too.
because I like
In case you
just to
don't
see
remember.
big old things like ramming into each other, like because I wanted to
That's the same
join.
description somebody had for adult films.
I wanted to join the
Oh, that's
army.
Gary Great.
And I wanted to be a tank driver. I told you this. My mom would not let me join the military.
Your mom wouldn't let her do anything because she was too small.
I was too small and you'll get hurt, which, okay, she was probably right.
And she's not wrong because she gets hurt all the time.
I get hurt just trying to put pants on. I fell down in my closet. I
Pretty funny to watch.
fell down today. I
Of
didn't
course
tell
she
you.
did. She falls in her closet.
I
all the
tried
time.
not to eat, but
We have
keep
a
it to
big
myself.
walk-in closet, but thankfully she has so much crap. No matter where she falls,
I'm
there's
bad.
only one direction she would fall to hit the wall. Everywhere else she would fall into clothing.
I fell into clothing, but I don't know. So the idea of these big armored trucks just crashing into each other just made me happy.
Well, this is like I said, this is kind of a gritty, old school crime thriller. There's plenty of gunplay in it. There's not any martial arts stuff in it, so it's always different.
That's fine.
But what I really like is, I think what makes Jason Statham so awesome, aside of just his ruggedly
handsome. Good
no,
looking.
his just rugged demeanor of the everyman while still being kind of elevated up. I like that you try to, like, I don't know what you're doing over there with your sexy faces and stuff, but like his nonchalant way he kills
he
people.
is. He's
Like
just
he walks
very
into rooms and
calm.
he doesn't even look. I've always been a fan of that.
The other thing is, I wonder, like, his wardrobe's typically the same when he's an everyman character, not armored up to beat someone up. I wonder, is that how he dresses with, like, his little, he always wears slacks, he always has
Oh
some
no!
nice
If you've ever seen
dress
pictures of him
shoes.
online, it's him and that
And
model that he's been with
model
forever.
girlfriend.
He's always in like button-up Hawaiian type shirts and
Oh,
shorts
really?
and like.
See, because he
coat
always
shoes
shows
and-
up in, like, little sweater, like, zippy sweater
But
vests.
you never see him smiling in any of the
always like-
photos
he's
he's
always
in.
like
He always
this.
looks like you see him in the movie. Like I envision he's the grumpiest man on the planet,
And I'm
but
okay
he's
with
probably
that.
not. He's probably super nice.
He's probably lovely.
Yeah, he's probably super nice, super.
He's very lovely, I'm
Sabine.
sure. Sabine,
Anyway.
come here.
Wrath of Man is in
Sabine
theaters
Weenie.
now. It
on.
was the #1 movie this weekend, so hopefully it does. It
Oh.
didn't make a ton of money, but it also probably didn't cost a lot of money to make.
Yes.
But check it out.
Yeah.
And
yes, Josh Hartnett.
Yeah. So in case you forgot, I wanted to
Yeah.
remind you
Get down.
before we wrap things up.
This is the most unprofessional show.
You had something you wanted to talk about today.
I did. And
Do you remember?
I don't, but you're going to
Let
tell
me tell
me.
you, it had to do with your work.
So, I posted a photo on the Hollywood Matrimony Facebook page. It was very exciting. So, this is where work and real life came together.
Work and fantasy collide.
So I work for a speakers bureau, which means we book all sorts of speakers and celebrities for different events. One of the events this week was the Genesis Women's Shelter here in Dallas. If you're interested in donating, go to genesiswomenshelter.org. I actually purchased a raffle ticket, so it was a donation. I hope we win something. So we'll find out tomorrow.
I don't care if we win anything because I wanted to give back to the community.
That's true. It's for the women's shelter.
I'm lying. I want to win something.
They help so many women get out of abusive relationships. And
That's why she donated, because she's making plans.
And it's interesting because we all know statistically during the pandemic, we saw this, like a lot of people, women and children, and or I'm going to say even men in abusive relationships, they were essentially trapped in the house with their abusers this whole past year, so the numbers are staggering. It used to be 1 in 5 women in Texas were in some sort of an abusive relationship. It's now 1 in 3, which is very sad. So am I the one? Not really.
You will, but you keep it up.
No, but
Anyway,
it,
so
it
what was your
is
song?
sad. Anyway, so the speaker for this year's luncheon was Octavia Spencer, and she is absolutely lovely. I'm just going to tell
You
you.
can see her recently on Thunder Force on Netflix.
There you go. She is amazing.
Was she in her Thunder Force outfit?
No, she
Oh.
was not. She's very kind, very well spoken. She is so pretty. And she just talked about her history of how, you know, she grew up in a family of 6 with a single mother who did everything she could to make sure they were provided for, worked multiple jobs, got her into college. She went to college, she got out, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to try this acting thing. And just on a whim, she started auditioning for anything that was local in Alabama.
Right.
And then the movie Time to Kill showed up with Matthew McConaughey.
Movie that made a lot of people famous.
And then from there is where she got her start.
Yeah.
You know, she was an English major, not necessarily thinking, but she's like, I'm going to just try and see what happens. And, you know, it's one of those awesome success stories. But then she talked about all the different roles. She tries to take different roles that are important for women of color and or just women in general. So, you know, like Minnie, who was in an abusive relationship, so it tied to this. Or from the other one, what's the astronaut movie about how a woman in that position, you know, she had to teach herself how to code a computer.
I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, no, I lost it right now.
I know something. Someone Taraji P. Henson.
Correct.
With her,
yeah. So she just talked about how all that has.
Ma.
Yes, we talked about.
It's not a great movie, but she's great in it.
We talked about the other one.
The Help?
Madam, yeah, we talked about The Help. Madam C.J. Walker.
Madam Butterfly?
We talked about, so it was just really interesting to just
Y'all didn't
hear
know about
her
Thunder Force
talk.
at all?
They did not mention Thunder Force. So, I don't know.
Shape of Water?
I think that got brought up. So
That was an Academy Award winning movie. It better got brought up.
So it was just a little bit about her talking about different movies, but also you can tell she's a very smart cookie. She did her research on the shelter. She related it back.
She seems like without me knowing her or talking to her or seeing her outside of just interviews about movies and stuff, she seems like the lady that would be like the neighborhood mom.
She seems,
you know what
really
I mean? Like,
yeah, she's just
everybody
really nice.
would go over to see her and talk to her, and she would make stuff for people and give advice to people. And
yeah.
Just as everybody loves her on the neighborhood, and then when they'd come visit her, they'd be like, "Hey, mom," you know, or grandma,
she just seems
or
like
whatever
a
you want to call her.
super nice lady.
Anyway,
so, anyways, that was just fun, just to be able to watch that. Because you know, I don't know that I'd ever meet her in real life, but
you work for it with her.
Yeah.
Because it was your people put it together, right?
Correct. Yeah, we booked that event, so that was fun.
It's not like when you met. Who was it? Was it Ron White? That came into your office that time?
That was the other Ron White. There's a different one. I know who you're
what
thinking.
What other Ron White?
There's 2. I'll tell you
What
later.
Ron White are you talking about?
The memory guy.
Oh, no. Who am I thinking of? There was somebody that came in this whole time. I thought that was the other Ron White. You had me convinced
Oh, no.
years ago that the good Ron White came. I don't care about that story now. That story's lame.
Sorry.
I've had this story in my head. I'm sure I've told a lot of people that my wife got to meet Ron White. Now I got to go back and tell them.
Well, I got to go see Uma Thurman speak. I've got
Who?
to see Uma Thurman.
Oh, I don't care about that.
I got to see Jada Pinkett speak.
Did you go to her thing?
I did. Hers was actually very moving too.
I know Pink's drummer came into your office.
Yes, he came.
Because you have
Mark
a son.
Schulman.
You have a son drumstick.
Yeah, so yeah, just little things here and there. All right, continue. Let's keep moving. What do you got, babe? What's coming out?
All right.
On the div.
So there's actually some decent stuff coming out this week. So
good.
We got the Martanian, which I don't think she had any slides built up for that today. So,
sorry, no.
So we got this one coming out this week.
Nice.
Martanian. We have the movie The Marksman with Liam Neeson, which we've talked about both these movies. This
I
one
love me some
we
Liam Neeson.
watched and reviewed this one while at Disney.
This movie is amazing, and it doesn't seem like it.
It's a Disney film.
It's historical drama, but man, this movie is insane. The fact that people can be held in Guantanamo for years without ever being charged.
Did you just fart?
No.
Okay.
But that is not okay.
All right. Well, this is now
Makes me
Disney.
angry.
This is now a Disney film because we watched
Oh,
it while
Lord.
we were at Disney.
No.
Then of course The Marksman with Liam Neeson,
I love
which
Liam Neeson.
not only an action film but also deals with border issues and things like that.
He can do no wrong.
That's right. There's a movie coming out called Land, starring what's her face, Robin Wright, and
She's no longer a pen.
no, and Demian Bashir. But Robin Wright actually, I believe, wrote and directed it.
Oh, good for her.
but
You go, girl.
Which we'll be talking about that on the show next week. The 1976 edition of King Kong is coming out on a collector's edition Blu-ray from Shout Factory.
Shout!
So we'll be talking about that because she's never seen that. So we'll talk about that next week as well. And also the latest in the DC animated films, Justice Society World War II is coming out.
Okay.
Which is Wonder Woman and Flash and Hawkman, but it's old Flash, and so, but it's dealing with that time period and stuff. So we'll be talking about that next week as well. And oh no, we gotta let you talk about the other one. Never mind. I was fixing to say something else I was so excited to talk about, but that's on your part of the story.
What?
So,
coming out? Yeah.
So that's pretty much the main stuff coming out for Blu-ray and DVD.
Let me tell you what's coming out.
I got excited because one of my most anticipated films of last year and this year, because it didn't come out last year, is this week. So I'm like silly excited.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that movie being Spiral from the Book of Saw. So it is related to the Saw franchise. I would recommend going back and watching all those movies because that's what we're going to be doing tonight.
All 7.
So,
which I'm excited because you still have not seen Jigsaw. So
I know.
You're going to get one of those because you wouldn't watch it every time I asked you. So now you get to finally I'm jealous because you have a movie in here that's new, and so you get to see 2 Saw movies back to back that are new. I only get 1.
The thing that intrigues me so much about the Saw franchise is after you watch some, then you start realizing there are things happening parallelly, like a parallelogram.
Yeah, some things happen side by side, some were before, some were after.
Before.
They all deal with social commentary.
But in a way, he's kind of justified. His mentality of why is justified. What he's doing is not, obviously killing people.
Yeah.
But in a way,
but each one deals with, they deal with addiction, it deals with the healthcare system, it deals with,
I mean, in the very first movie, I remember watching that very first movie, and at the end, you're like, what? The whole time?
Which we're going to tell the whole story next week. The first movie, we had a very unique experience, which I have talked about on here, so we'll talk about that. Because there's going to be an entire, you don't remember what?
The first, what happened?
Where we watched it and all that kind of stuff. Because it was out of nowhere. We knew nothing about what we walked into.
Oh, that's true. We were at a con.
And it was just chairs in a room with a projector and
yeah, we've seen some like that's at one time we saw the other Asian movie.
Oh, that movie, so the Death Driver movie thing or whatever
with the milk shooting out of the tentacle.
That movie is so good.
Teats, I guess.
But yeah, so it's like
we've seen some doozies, but this was like whoa.
Yeah, it was literally we like what's going on in here? We're gonna show a movie. We're like okay.
And I love con people because at the end everybody's like what?
Yeah, so that used to be a cool thing because it was essentially an independent film when it came out.
Yeah, come here.
And so it introduced us to James Wan, it introduced us to Leigh Whannell and Tobin Bell and all the stuff that happened. So we're gonna do a whole retrospect of Saw, so maybe a little bit along the show.
And then Spiral's interesting how Spiral got made and the fans of it, the stars who are the fans.
Which I got to do some research because Chris Rock is the reason this new movie exists. He was a story. I don't know if he's a fan of the franchise or just the first movie.
Oh, okay.
Because I also saw an article, a video that was released that they were showing stars of this movie some of the kills from the other movies, and they were like reacting to them.
Oh.
And so Chris Rock was watching like, what the hell is going on? Like he'd never seen it. So I don't know if maybe he's just a fan of the idea or what. But anyway, the new one is big. Chris Rock's in it, but most people don't know is he also came up with the story and he produces it. And Darren Lynn Bousman, who directed like I think 2 through 4 or 5, who said he was done with the franchise, came back to direct this one, and it's already getting some pretty high props of the best of the franchise.
When is it come? Oh, it's coming
out this Friday.
I'm surprised they didn't do a Halloween, but
it was supposed to come out October last year.
Oh,
so now they're just trying to get it out. So
all right,
I am super
like it's always on Halloween.
Yeah, super stoked.
All right, the next one is on video demand and digital. It's called Above Suspicion, based on the true story of FBI crime thriller with Emilia Clarke, the mother of dragons.
I know. I've been talking to you about this movie about watching. We were supposed to watch that for this week.
And Johnny Knoxville and some other people.
I have a screener for it.
So we will watch that for sure. Limited. I'm skipping some of these.
Scroll back up. That one right there, Those Who Wish Me Dead, is the other big one.
Okay, but it says it's in limited release.
It's on HBO Max.
Okay. Those Who Wish Me Dead, teenage murder. Witness is lost in the Montana wilderness. People are trying to hunt him down.
It's Angelina Jolie.
Jolie.
The reason it's classified as limited release, come here, is because it's HBO Max and there's some theaters that aren't showing some of the stuff.
Oh, well then are some of these happening like this?
It could.
This one looks cool. The Jinn. It's about a boy who's trapped with a monster who's like a djinn, back in Asian monster times.
It's about people that make djinn?
Yes, but he's mute. So how is he going to call for help? That's scary. Okay, this looks interesting.
Yeah.
The Mads Mikkelsen movie, Riders of Justice.
Who he was just announced cast in Indiana Jones 5. I'm very excited.
He's trying to find a girl who was lost in a train accident. Video Demand and Digital, Higher Ground. It's about these two kids who are trying to hunt down this terrorist or something, or war criminal, but then we find out, it tells us here in the preview, one of the boys is actually related to him, and then drama ensues.
That makes me think of that movie, even though it's not the same story, At Pupil, which I love.
We keep talking. I've never watched that.
You've never seen that?
No,
Ian McKellen is a Nazi.
I am scared of Nazis. You find them. We
I just
know
think they're the
bad.
perfect villain.
You like them as the
At
villains.
Pupil is so good, especially knowing Ian McKellen now.
He seems like lovely.
Well, yeah, he's an older homosexual man who was
Seems
played
very
Magneto,
lovely,
best friends with Patrick Stewart. But then you watch him playing a Nazi that's like insane.
I have to watch it.
At People is so good.
Okay, that's pretty much the big stuff is Saw.
Cool. So next week is going to be Saw Spectacular, but then we have a few other ones in there to watch too. I guess we got to watch other things.
I think the other thing I want to watch is now that one movie from Antonio Banderas is now on Netflix.
Oh, The Skin I Live in.
We're going to revisit that, and I'm going to get everyone over here to watch it.
Okay, so for our giveaways this week, we have a few things, and I'm prepared, even though you're not.
I'm just throwing a slide up there on the.
Do you have a slide?
I just screen capped that and went
well, that's dumb. So we're giving away copies of The Marksman.
You need it.
Which I told you is coming out this week.
You need it.
We're giving away copies of this movie called Deliver Us from Evil that we'll talk about once it's the time of that week. We're giving away copies of Judas and the Black Messiah.
Nice.
We're giving away copies of The Little Things.
Oh.
We have a couple of digital copies left.
Movie.
We have a couple of digital copies left of Raya and the Last Dragon. And I have one copy of Godzilla on 4K left. So I'll be drawing that final winner this week.
Okay. Sounds good.
And some other contests coming up in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing.
Peace and love, children. Peace and love.
All right. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Woo! I'm doing Kermit hands. All right. Thank you so much for watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Go find us on Twitter and Instagram. We love you. You're awesome. We will see you next week.